The Mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle, a stretch of the Atlantic Ocean running between Puerto Rico, Bermuda, and Miami, has been credited with the deaths and disappearances of over 8,000 lives since the mid-19th century. Though the exact number is not known, at least 50 ships and 20 airplanes have disappeared in the triangle, often without a trace. Of all this, Flight 19. It began nothing more than a routine training flight at 2:10 p.m. on December 5th, 1945. 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers took off from Naval State Air Station in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The planes, collectively known as Flight 19, were scheduled to tackle a 3-hour exercise known as Navigation Problem Number 1. Their triangular flight plan called for them to head east from the Florida coast and conduct bombing runs at a place called Hens and Chicken Shoals. They would then turn north and proceed over Grand Bahama Island before changing course a third time and flying southwest back to base. Save for one plane that only carried 2 men, each of the Avengers was crewed by 3 Navy men or Marines, most who have logged around 300 hours in the air. The flight leader was Lieutenant Charles C. Taylor, an experienced pilot and a veteran of several combat missions in World War II Pacific Theater. At first, Flight 19 hop proceeded just smoothly as the previous 18 that day. Taylor and his pilots buzzed over Hens and Chicken Shoals around 2:30 p.m. and dropped their practice bombs without incident. But shortly after the patrol turned north for the second leg of its journey, something very strange happened. For reasons that are still unclear, Taylor became convinced that his Avenger compass was malfunctioning and that his plane had been flying in the wrong direction. Troubles only mounted after the front blew in and brought rain, gusting winds, and heavy cloud cover. After Flight 19 became hopelessly disoriented, "I don't know where we are," one of the pilots said over the radio. "We must have got lost after the last turn." Lieutenant Robert F. Cox, another Navy flight instructor who was flying near the Florida coast, was the first to overhear the patrol's radio communication. He immediately informed the air station of the situation, then contacted the Avengers to ask if they needed assistance. "Both of my compasses are out of order and I'm trying to find Fort Lauderdale," Taylor said, the voice sounding anxious. "I'm over land, but it's broken. I am sure I'm over the Keys, but I don't know how far down." Taylor's claim didn't seem to make sense. He made this schedule pass over Hens and Chicken Shoals in the Bahamas less than an hour earlier, but he now believed his plane had somehow drifted hundreds of miles off course and ended up in the Florida Keys. The 27-year-old just transferred from Fort Lauderdale from Miami, and many have since speculated that he may have confused some of the islands of the Bahamas for the Keys. Under normal circumstances, pilots lost in the Atlantic were supposed to point their airplanes toward the setting sun or the west, fly west toward the mainland, but Taylor had become convinced that he might be over the Gulf of Mexico. Hoping to locate the Florida Peninsula, he made a fateful decision to steer Flight 19 northeast, a course that would take him only farther into the ocean. Some of the pilots seemed to have recognized that he was making this mistake. "Damn it," one man ripped over the radio. "If we would just fly west, we will get home." Taylor was eventually persuaded to turn around and head west, but shortly after 6 p.m., he seemed to have canceled the order and once again changed direction. "We didn't go far enough east," he said, still worried that he might be over the Gulf. "We may as well just turn around and go east again." His pilots probably argued against the decision. Some investigators even believed that one plane broke off and flew in a different direction, but most followed their commander's lead. Flight 19's radio transmission soon became increasingly faint as it meandered out to D.C. When fuel began to run low, Taylor was heard prepping his men for a potential crash landing in the ocean. "All planes close up tight," he said. "We have to ditch unless landfall. When the first plane drops below 10 gallons, we're all going down together." A few minutes later, the Avenger's last radio communication was replaced by an eerie buzz and static. The Navy immediately scrambled search planes to hunt for the missing patrol. Around 7:30 p.m., a pair of PBM Mariner flying boats took off from the air station north of Fort Lauderdale. Just 20 minutes later, however, one of them seemed to follow Flight 19's lead by suddenly disappearing off radar. The remains of the Mariners and his 13 crew were never recovered, but it is commonly believed the seaplane exploded shortly after takeoff. Flying boats were notoriously accident-prone and were even nicknamed flying gas tanks for their propensity of catching fire. Suspicious that the seaplane may have gone up in flames were all but confirmed by a passing merchant ship, which spotted a fireball and found evidence of oil slick in the ocean. At first light the next day, the Navy dispatched more than 300 boats and aircraft to look for Flight 19 and the missing mariner. The search party spent 5 days combing through more than 300,000 square miles of territory to no avail. They just vanished. Navy Lieutenant David White later recalled, "We have hundreds of planes out looking, and we search over land and water for days, and nobody's ever found the bodies or any debris." A Navy Board of Investigation was also left scratching his head. While he argued that Taylor might have confused the Bahamas for the Florida Keys after his compasses malfunctioned, he could find no clear explanation for why Flight 19 became so disoriented. His members eventually attributed the loss to causes or reasons unknown. The strange events of December 5th, 1945 have since become fodder of a manner of wild theories and speculations. In the 1960s and 1970s, Pulp magazine and writers such as Vincent Gaddis and Charles Bellitz helped popularize the idea that Flight 19 had been gobbled up by the Bermuda Triangle, a section of the Atlantic supposedly known for its high volume of freak disappearances and mechanical failures. Other books and fictional portraits have suggested that magnetic anomalies, parallel dimensions, and alien abductions might have all played a role in the tragedy. In 1977, the film Close Encounters of the Third Kind famously depicted Flight 19 as having been whisked away by flying saucers and later deposited in the desert of Mexico. Even if the lost patrol didn't fall victim to the supernatural, there is no denying that its disappearance was accompanied by many oddities and unanswered questions. Perhaps the stranger of all concerns, Lieutenant Taylor, witnesses later claimed that he arrived to Flight 19 pre-exercise briefing several minutes late and requested to be excused from leading the mission. "I just don't want to take this one out," he supposedly said. Just why Taylor tried to get out of flying the remains is still a mystery, but it has led many to suggest that he may not have been fit for duty. Also unexplained is why none of the members of Flight 19 made use of the rescue radio frequency on their plane CBX receivers, which could have helped them lead back toward Navy radio towers or land. The pilots were told to switch the device on, but they either didn't hear the message or didn't acknowledge it. What really happened to Flight 19? The most likely scenario is that the planes eventually ran out of gas and ditched it in the ocean somewhere off the coast of Florida, leaving any survivors to the mercy of rough seas and deep waters. In 1991, a group of treasure hunters seemed to have finally solved the puzzle when they stumbled upon the watery grave of 5 World War II-era Avengers near Fort Lauderdale. Unfortunately, this was later found that the hulks belonged to a different group of Navy planes whose serial numbers did not match those of the favored lost patrols. Many believe the wreck of Flight 19 and its doomed rescue planes may still lurk somewhere in the Bermuda Triangle, but while the search continues to this day, no definite sign of the 6 aircraft or their 27 crewmen has ever been found. I leave this to your speculation. What happened to Flight 19 and all the crews that were lost that day? Thank you for visiting my channel, and thank you for joining me in this one mystery of the Bermuda Triangle, Flight 19.